Hey, what is going on, Sumolings? This is Chris. If you guys want to let us know where you're coming from in the chat, I am in sunny Austin, Texas, and we got some partners here from LA who will be hopping on in a minute. But let us know where you're coming from. Let us know that you can hear, see, all good on your end, and we'll get going in just a minute. All right. Who's ready to get going? Bobby, Nick, you guys there? You got me?
I guess it's on. So working for you? No.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Can you hear me? Bobby, you there?
He did say sometimes it kicks me out. Should I leave? Maybe. Hey, Chris.
What's going on? All right. Apologies, guys. They are jumping back in. They're having some technical difficulties, but they should be popping back in a second, and then we will get this broadcast going. I appreciate your patience. I know we're a couple minutes behind here, but there we are. We got our man Bobby. Bobby, you got me?
I got you. Hey there.
All right. What's going on, Sumolings? If you haven't heard, I am Chris from AppSumo. Super excited for you guys to be tuning in with us today. And today we are blessed. We have Bobby and Nick, who are the co-founders of CivicFeed. If you don't already know, CivicFeed is a media monitoring platform that helps you track your brand and develop more effective digital marketing campaigns. Available right now on AppSumo for just $49 if you want to go check it out. But I am going to turn the reins over to Bobby right now. He's going to be giving you guys an awesome demo and walkthrough of the product so you can see how to fit it into your business. And he's also going to have co-founder Nick, who's going to be in the comments answering any questions that you guys have. But I will be coming on back at the end, helping out with any questions. And yeah, feel free to drop them below the video as we're going through. But other than that, Bobby, I'm going to turn off my camera, turn it over to you, and let you get going, man.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Good to be here with all of you guys today. We're excited to walk through the CivicFeed product. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my camera here and share my screen. We'll dive right in. Someone says no sound.
Let's give it a minute. Sometimes it kind of sorts itself out as we get going. People in the comments, let us know. Can you hear us? Is it getting better? Where are you guys at before we jump in? I know Will said no sound. We also got a loud and clear. Can hear you. All right, looks like we're good to go. So let's jump into it, and people can let us know as we go.
Cool. So yeah, if you have already signed up for a
everybody?
CivicFeed platform or a CivicFeed account, you'll be familiar with this page. If you haven't, this is the first page that you'll see once you log in. This is our dashboard. It's really where you can get an idea for what's happened over the last 24 hours. You're going to have your today's stream right here. This is going to be a comprehensive view of all of the different mentions that have matched your alerts over that last day. And then you're going to have all your alerts down here on the left. Alerts being an organization, a key phrase, a keyword, or an individual, really anything it is that you want to monitor for across any of the tens of thousands of sources that CivicFeed is tracking. Just a few things to kind of highlight here. These numbers right here are going to indicate how many mentions have occurred within the last 24 hours. And a mention is going to be any occurrence of your alert being found in one of those sources that we're tracking. So that's kind of an important distinction as you're actually going through and setting up your account. I'm going to go ahead and dive into creating an alert. Just a few things to mention real quickly before I get too much further if you're following along. One is that AppSumo is for new account users. If you already have a CivicFeed account, you signed up for free perhaps, that's not a problem at all. Just reach out to support and we'll be able to help make sure that we get your redemption code associated with your pre-existing account. The other thing to quickly mention if you're following along and trying to do any of this is sometimes ad blockers create some issues. So if you do have an ad blocker running and you're running into some troubles, try disabling that and seeing if it fixes it for you. All right, so back to creating an alert. There's a few ways that CivicFeed allows you to really focus down on what it is you're wanting to monitor. There's going to be cases, oftentimes you've got an organization that's the name of something that's a pretty commonplace noun or something like that, and it's really hard to monitor for it across the web. Well, CivicFeed, that's not a problem. We'll allow you to look for it case sensitive, so make sure that it always has a capital letter at the beginning. In order to do that, you'll just be checking that box. The other thing that's a really powerful tool for being able to create searches that are really a little more complex than kind of your standard keyword search are going to be using advanced search features like our Boolean searches. You can learn more about all the different types of advanced searches we do by clicking this link here, which will pop you out to one of our help articles. But I'm going to go through kind of using a Boolean search. So being a big Avengers fan, let's start off with something I love. We're going to look for Tony Stark. But I know that he might also be referred to as Iron Man. So using this Boolean search, I'm going to look for mentions of Tony Stark or Iron Man. I could also look for mentions of specifically Tony Stark and Iron Man, or I could exclude certain things all through those advanced search features. So I do encourage you to go take a look through that article. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select, well, where is it that I actually want to monitor? On CivicFeed, you can select different groups of data sources. It's a really powerful tool for making sure that you're not getting too much content, really refining down to what you want. You can search across news. So that's going to be tens of thousands of news publications, primarily US-based. So we have had a lot of people inquiring as to kind of the geographic reach of those. They're primarily US-based. But at our base tiers, like the AppSumo one, we do include major international publications. If you have any other questions about those, feel free to reach out as well. And the other channels that you can monitor across are going to be social channels like Instagram, Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, or other blogs. In some cases, you might want to exclude a specific source. It's a great opportunity or a great resource for being able to exclude a source that's just not relevant to your business, but for some reason keeps matching. And you can also set up a search for or an alert for specific sources. So if you know you just want to be monitoring a single source or group of sources, that individual's option is there for you. In this case, I'm going to look in news. And then the last step is, how do I actually want to be notified? For me, an email is great, but you can also connect to Slack and push your notifications through to a Slack channel. Or if you download our CivicFeed app, you can get it onto your phone as a push notification. All right, so I've got my alert created here. Before we dive into our filters and analytics, just real quickly, let's say I want to make an edit or I want to delete this alert. You can edit or delete an alert for any reason at any time. You're just going to hit this more icon up here in the top right. And that'll give you the options to edit or delete or to share a public link. So a great way for sharing this out to people on your team or within your organization. From my filters page, this is a good way to start to refine down and kind of explore what the different mentions are that are matching my alert. The first thing I can do is I can actually sort my results either by time, which is how they come by default, or by the number of social shares. Great way of starting to figure out what content's getting the most traction. I can refine that down to a date, and I can explore the sources that are actually talking about my issue the most, and then refine down to one of those if I wanted to as well. One of the coolest filters I think with CivicFeed is actually our ability to filter down by geography. So we allow you to filter either by a specific state or drawing a custom region. So if I say I'm just interested in, the states in the South, for instance, real easy to just draw that custom region around there and start to narrow down your results. Once I've actually saved this, I can apply that to all of my notifications moving forward. So any notifications I receive will make sure they're just from sources within that geographic region, or I can just have it applied temporarily as I'm kind of exploring and diving through. Let's say I found a mention that's really interesting to me. From there, I can click on it and I can see a few kind of really cool things. The first is being able to look at, well, how did that actually get shared over time? How quickly did it go viral? Great way of figuring out what content's not only getting shared a lot, but getting picked up really quickly by users on social. I can publish it out to any of my social channels with a single click. So if I'm building up content that I'm trying to share with any of my users or members, this is a great way to be able to share any of the content you discover on CivicFeed directly to your social channels. I can bookmark it, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, but it's a good way of saving an article so that you can easily get back to it later, or including it into any of our reports functions. And then I can explore authors, which again, I'll dive into a little bit more later on in the webinar, but just kind of bookmark that for now. All right, in addition to my filters, we also provide analytics. So once you start to get a sense of what the conversation looks like around your organization, how you actually engage in, and that's where these analytics are really useful. I can get a sense of how many stories are actually being published over time. Do these correlate to events perhaps that are going on, or things like that. So a great way to start to get an idea of what that cadence looks like. I can also compare these to other alerts that I've set up. So let's say I want to know how Tony Stark is comparing to Captain America, for instance. I can real easily pull those two together and look at them side by side. You can also take a look at a heat map. So where is this coverage actually coming from geographically? Like we said, you could filter down by geo, but this is a good way of starting to see, well, where are people actually talking about my organization, about my industry, whatever it may be. And then I can explore top journalists and publishers. So as you're starting to produce your own content, you're wanting your content to get picked up by sources, this is a good way to start to see, well, what publishers and what journalists are frequently active within your industry or talking about your issue or your organization, so you can start to build lists of media contacts to actually reach out to. All right, so let's go ahead here and dive into what some of these actual journalists look like. So I'm going to go ahead and hop into, here we go. So from your journalist page, you get a sense of how big of an influence the journalist actually has by looking at how many stories they have on Facebook and what their biggest story that's being shared out is. You can get a sense of what kind of topics they're writing about, how many stories they're publishing over time, and explore a feed of what those stories look like, as well as the tweets. So it's a great way to start to get a sense of a journalist beat and what it is they're looking at. Another great way of exploring journalists is actually from our authors database, which all AppSumoings get access to, and will be able to have credits to download journalists and their contact information. From here, I can search for journalists either by their bio or by their article text, which I think is a really great way of being able to discover journalists that are talking about an issue that's relevant to you or an industry that's relevant to you. So let's go ahead here and search for journalists that are writing about the Avengers. So you'll see here on the right, I'm getting a list of journalists and their publications, as well as a preview of the different articles that they're writing that mention the Avengers. I can continue to narrow that down even further. So let's say I want to look specifically for people that are also writing for the Los Angeles Times. All right, I found a journalist who has written about the Avengers, is writing for the Los Angeles Times. Let's look into her a little bit further. Okay, I'm seeing that she's an LA Times entertainment reporter, so this is pulling her Twitter bio. I also get her Twitter handle there, which is another good way of reaching out to journalists. I can see that CivicFeed does indeed have their contact information. Again, I can explore what their influence is, look at the topics they write about, as well as their Twitter and feed of articles coming through here. So she looks like a great contact for me to reach out to in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and add her to a media list. What a media list is, it's really a collection of different journalists that I've discovered on the platform. And it allows me to save them for later, to get access to their contact information by adding them. So that's going to be those contact download credits that you'll see on our Sumo deal, as well as being able to export that list to a CSV so I can import it into another CRM or similar email platform that I'm using. So here's a list of journalists that I've built for the entertainment space. You'll see it gives me some basic information here, as well as their organization and email. And then as I start to build up my contacts, I can always add additional information that I might have on my own here. So any notes that I might have, if I've started to actually meet with them and have their address, all that can easily be imported into CivicFeed. So you can really start to manage those contacts. As I mentioned, this list can easily be exported to a CSV, which then can be pulled into whatever platform you're using. These journals can also easily be imported into your reports. Your reports you can think of as a place to really tie together all those analytics that you've pulled together on CivicFeed and build something you can be sent out to your team, your stakeholders, really anyone within your organization. We're actually going to go through and kind of build a report real quickly on the fly, just so you can get a sense of how easy it is to start to pull some of this info together. So I'm going to pull together a report for my, there we go. I'll go ahead and get rid of this placeholder text. And let's start off by pulling in a nice little image here. We're going to build one for some of that Iron Man data that I was pulling together. All right. And now let's start off by adding in a summary of the media coverage that we're getting. So from here, I can look at the different analytics that we were exploring on that report section. I'm going to go down to, let's say, Tony Stark and Iron Man in the news. And I want to know the total number of mentions that it's had over the last 3 months, let's say. All right, we can easily pull that in. All of this can be updated as well. If you'd like to change the dates, for instance, you can pull in multiple alerts. Let's say I also want to pull in that stories over time graph. That was a real interesting kind of metric, especially with all the movies coming out. We can kind of see how it correlates to those events. And let's also just pull in the heat map. Why not? All right, so we also had some really cool mentions that we found as we were looking through those articles. So I'm going to highlight a few of those so that when I share this with my team, they know, okay, these were kind of some of our most successful mentions that we got. So I bookmarked a few of those earlier. And let's pull in this one from an alert I created for Steve Rogers and Captain America. You'll see it pulls it right in there. All of these are going to then be clickable, so I can easily get back out to that article. When I share this out, I can share it out via share link. So again, any of those users can get back out to those articles. So really building a dynamic report it's going to have a lot more power than, say, like a PDF. And then we also have some social coverage. You're being talked about all over the social media, so let's pull in some metrics there. I'm going to go ahead and pull in that same total mentions for Tony Stark and Instagram, Reddit, Twitter, and YouTube. And then I also want to do a breakdown of, where did that actually come from? So I'm going to do it by source breakdown for that same alert. And let's say we want it to be from Instagram, Reddit, Twitter, and YouTube. Minute to update there. Oh, let me add that one more time. All right, I'll take a look and see what that updates. But that'll pull in a pie chart that'll show me the distribution of those across all the different sources. And then the last thing is those journalist contacts. So I bookmarked a bunch of, I added a number of people to my media list, and there were a few of them that were really interesting that I want to be able to share with my team. So I'm going to add those into the report as well. So here you'll see they get added in pretty easily. What's really cool about this report is once I've shared this link out, as I make updates to it, all those updates are going to be reflected in real time. So I don't have to keep sharing it out with my team. They can just know to check back in on here and have any of those metrics that I've pulled in automatically reflecting. So the last thing that I wanted to kind of touch on in this webinar is, some of the resources that we have out there for you to be able to get in contact with our team and to get support. The first is going to be our CivicFeed Community site. This is a great place to find how-to and help articles. It's also a place where we allow you to submit feature suggestions and track and vote for those over time. So I would definitely recommend that you all go and check out the CivicFeed Community site. The other is going to be our CivicFeed Slack community. Our CivicFeed Slack community is a great place for you to be able to interact with other members on the CivicFeed platform, share ideas and use cases for how you've been able to use the CivicFeed platform, and also to get in touch with our team so that you can ask questions, directly engage with us. So that's a really valuable resource that if you haven't already, I recommend that you join. So that's the CivicFeed platform, kind of in a nutshell. We hope that you enjoy it. We know it's going to be a really valuable asset to all of your communication and marketing teams and really helping you manage where your mentions are taking place across the internet, across the news. We thank you all for tuning in today. I'll turn it back over to Chris.
Bobby, you still with me? Cool.
Still here.
All right, let's go through some of the questions I'm seeing. So the first one I'm seeing is from William. It says, how do you compare with other monitoring softwares like Mention, Brand24, and Awario? I see Nick got an answer in there, but if you want to go through that as well, I think that'd be helpful for folks.
Sure. Yeah, so we think those are all great companies. We have a few things that we think really differentiate us from a lot of those platforms. One is going to be kind of our focus on being a holistic platform in terms of coverage. We've pulled really local sources all the way to national sources. We also have advanced features such as our Boolean and case-sensitive search that we think are really important assets. And then we've also integrated with tools like Slack.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. The next one I'm seeing from Will that just popped up, and anyone on here, if you got questions, feel free to drop those below the video so we can go through those one by one. The next one is there a CivicFeed branding when we share a mention on social media?
Sure. Yeah. So it'll share that mention through our CivicFeed site. So you'll be able to then get access to any of those kind of resources that we have alongside it, which is a really cool way. You can still click through to that original article. And then, of course, you get access to the original content by clicking through our platform to the original article.
Awesome. All right. Next one. Any plans for social share integration with Buffer or SmarterQ?
Yeah, we are currently exploring those options. I'd encourage, if those are features that are important to you, that you add them into that features pipeline on our community site and vote for them. That really is a place where we can, get in touch with the community and listen to them. We do have a share button within the CivicFeed site that automatically allows you to send it to Buffer as well. So that's going to be in those share tools when you look at a specific article.
Awesome. All right. Those are the Will asks how to remove the CF branding when shared on social media. Please add that feature. I guess it's more a comment than a question.
I would encourage you to add. Really, we really do listen to the community in helping drive that product roadmap. Please add in a lot of those feature requests to our community site. Vote for features that are important to you. That's valuable information for us, and we do take very seriously.
Awesome. All right, those are all the questions. Oh man, they just keep popping up one by one. All right, any other questions? Let's ask them. We're going to be taking a couple more before we hop off. Amy asks, is there a way to export a report as a PDF? I know you'd lose the dynamic updating.
Totally. Yeah, you're within the platform. There's a print and export option.
Awesome. Easy enough. All right, we'll start the countdown. See if we got any more questions coming through. Act now or forever hold your peace, Sumolings. What do you got? Anything. Will says it's a great tool. Awesome. Thanks, Will.
Thanks, Will. I appreciate it. And like we said, if there is something that comes up after the webinar, feel free to reach out via the Slack channel. We're happy to answer any questions there, provide any help that you might need as well.
Awesome. All right, we will leave it there. Thank you guys so much for joining us for this, Sumolings. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Nick, for hopping on. Really appreciate you guys taking the time. Any last words before we hop off?
Nope, we're really excited to have you all. We're glad to be a part of this community, and we look forward to working with each of you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great afternoon, and we'll be talking soon.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining.